Well, it wasn't very helpful that we sent you a file box of papers over the internet.
Fortunately, I was able to print only part of them. So, but my printer's not working today.
Jim, you're live when you're ready.
I'm sorry?
We're live whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right, I'll call together, I'll call to order the meeting of Wyoming County Industrial Development Agency. It's January 14th. And I'll first ask everybody to identify themselves who is a member of the board. And I'm Mark Dadd, the chairman.
Bill Berlanger, vice chairman. Bill Badowski, director.
Jim Hardy, director.
And I think that's it for the board today. Is that correct, Mr. Pierce?
That is correct.
All right, but we do have a quorum. All right, everybody else in attendance on the Zoom meeting, could you state your name, please?
I'm Jim Pierce, the executive director of the IDA.
Jennifer
I'm Robin
Tishka.
Marshalik, the Director of Operations of the IDA.
Jennifer Tishka, program manager for the IDA.
All right,
Evan Zanner, legal counsel for the IDI.
all right, I think that does it. And as you've noted, we've received information from Rebecca Ryan that she will not be able to attend, as well as Jim Bratowski. And we may be joined by Tom McCormick. Is that correct? We're still waiting to see if he probably would be just calling in, right? If he attends.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think we can get started, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting. I think we all have a copy, either a hard copy or an electronic one. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented for that meeting?
I'll make a
If
motion.
not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as received. Do I have that motion?
So moved, Bill Berlanger.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hardy.
Yes.
All right, is there anybody who opposes the motion? If not, it's granted. All right, our next order of business is to review the financial report. And if you could put that up, please, Mr. Pierce. There we go. Once again, that was sent to everybody electronically. Are there any additions or corrections or discussion concerning the financial report? Robin, is there anything you would like to bring to our attention that is on your-
No, Chairman, there's nothing out of the ordinary. We'll point out that we did get the balance of our management fees from the BAC and the Business Center under income. And we had, typical monthly expenses, nothing out of the ordinary, as I said, and ended up the month and in this instance, the year with $2,600,000 in both cash on hand and invested funds.
All right, thank you. If there are no additions or corrections or additional discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial report as submitted. Do I have such a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Bill Berlanger, second.
All right. Is there anyone who opposes? If not, the motion is carried. All right. And now we have the investment report. All right. I'm asking the same question. Is there anything unusual or that you think we should draw attention to?
No, this just is a good snapshot of where we're at as of the end of the year. As you see, there's some CDs that show zero balances. That's because they matured, we closed them out and moved money into other banks or into other CDs. But for the year, the WCIDA generated $34,638.56 in interest. That was for the year of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Okay, any additions, corrections, or discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the finance report or I should say the investment report as presented. Do I have such a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there anyone who opposes? Hearing none, the motion is granted. All right, now let us go to our action items, and Mr. Pierce, if you'd give a summary and introduce our guest, please.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Joining us today is Dan Campitello. Dan is the project developer for Delaware River Solar Company. They have proposed a series of small solar arrays in the town of Pike on 4 individual parcels. Each of these projects are going to be treated as independent projects in their entirety. And before I ask Dan to make any comments, I did want to indicate to the board that throughout the process of going through and considering these 4 projects, that for each of them, we have received a complete application signed and certified by the company. We have the seeker process has been complete. We do have a neg deck from the town of Pike. We were listed as a party to the coordinated review on the seeker process. So we are accepting, or the board will be accepting the seeker neg deck as well. We have done a cost benefit analysis, and when we run through these projects, you will see what that is. Because of the nature of these projects, it was necessary to do a public hearing, primarily because the incentives are going to be greater than $100,000. But in addition, it was a deviation from our standard pilot policies. And so both of those items kind of triggered the need for doing the public hearing. Again, as we go through each of these presentations, you will see the minutes from each of the public hearings that were held a couple days ago, also via Zoom. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Dan Campitello. And Dan, if you want to share a few words or how your experience has been at this point with this project, we'd be happy to hear that.
Great, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. And probably start by giving you a little background on our company. And overall, our experience has been really great working in Wyoming County in the town of Pike. We've been very lucky to find these 4, the ability to develop these 4 projects in the town, and we look forward to bringing community solar to local residents. Our Delaware River Solar is a New York State-based company. We have offices here in Rochester, where I'm based, New York City, Calhoun, New York, and a good amount of our workforce is spread out across New York State. One of our construction managers lives in Wyoming County. We have developed to date over 200 megawatts of community solar projects around the state. We focus primarily in the NYSEG and RG&E utility markets. What we do is we identify land that's suitable for interconnecting onto local distribution lines, where we can tie community solar farms onto those lines to distribute the power locally to customers. These 4 projects in the town of Pike will amount to about 12 megawatts alternating current of power. That's enough power to power about 1,800 homes locally. Subscribers to the solar farms simply pay for the power that they use, just like they always have, except they know they'll be getting their power from the local solar farm. add up to a 10% discount for locked in for 20 years. So it's a great way for people to get local power and for us to be able to reduce our energy, our environmental impact as statewide. We've had a really wonderful time working with the town of Pike under the new solar law adopted in 2019. The projects went through planning board review for site plan, land separation review, and special use permit from the town board. Right now, we're just kind of entering the final phases of getting ready to begin construction this year. We hope to begin construction in either around the middle of this year, around the second or third quarter of this year. And construction on all 4 projects would most likely be very simultaneous and concurrent. And we would expect to have the projects hopefully connected and operational by December 31st of 2021, if all goes well. Jim, do you have the site plans up, which if people are interested in seeing and getting a sense of where the projects are in the town? I don't know if you have the ability to share your screen or.
I lumped everything into one file just so because there's so many documents related to this project. So
okay,
bear with me. Here's Pike 1 and 2.
Right, and what you're seeing here is Pike 1 and 2 are on Route 19, just south of the village of Pike. These are projects are sited in the rear of the parcel. So we've worked with the landowner to make sure that this won't interrupt the farming that will take place on the eastern side of the parcels, closer to Route 19. The area that we're using is land that was really not very accessible on the parcel. It's up on a hill behind a windy access road. So there wasn't a really good opportunity to get heavy farm equipment up that road. And we'll be developing 7 megawatts total between these 2 projects on this site. We'll also be improving the access road that the landowner currently uses, and that will allow the farmer to have better access in and out of that farming field as well. The very low impact, once we're done developing this project, we'll probably enter the site maybe 3 or 4 times a year to mow the lawn, do some maintenance and operations of the project. But generally, they just kind of sit out in the sun and just produce electricity throughout the year.
I think we'll cover 3 and 4 as we go through them, Dan. You can make some comments then.
Okay, great.
Anybody have any questions for Dan before we jump right into consideration of the projects?
My question, Jim, only is, I'm all for this project, but how much essentially of good workable agricultural property do you want in these projects? I'm not trying to be objectionable to it. I'm all for it. But being a farmer, being a huge agricultural county, I personally have a big concern over the agriculture. So is there much property agriculture being lost to this project? In any rating, anybody go through the soil and water, good property is rated from 1A, B, down to 2, 3, 4. You know that. If the ground is rated below 400,
I'm not sure if Dan heard your question, Joe, but the audible is not very good. I don't know if there's a microphone near you that you could get closer to.
I'm not a technician, so there may or may not be. You understand my question, Jim, right?
I was not able to understand it.
Okay. My question is, how much property with these panels, I know one of the projects could be good agricultural land. And my question was, if any of them are rated, say, below 4, 4A or 4B, according to the soil and water maps, I would have problem with it. Again, I appreciate this project, but also we're a big Chairman agriculture county. Personally, I hate to see good ag land being lost.
I'm sorry, I can't really understand what's being said there. It's a little, it's hard to hear.
Let's carry on. Doug's going to get someone in here to help us out.
I think we have to find Joe. I think Doug went to get Lisa to see if we can't move that microphone on that computer closer to you because we were having a hard time picking up your voice.
We can take a break for a minute.
I don't mean to hold things up, but it's just
You got to use your outside voice, Joe. Microphone doesn't seem to be picking up his voice very well.
How about now? Can you hear us?
Joe, say something.
How about now? Can you hear us here?
I can hear you. Can Joe Gazowski say something?
yeah, the agricultural land. Jim, you hear me now?
I heard that.
Yeah.
So that's much better.
How much of the property on all these projects, how are they rated? How much is good tillable land, Jim? With any of that looked at very harshly, the bottom line is any of the land, is most of the land rated, say below 4A or B, according to the soil and water map. So, you know.
Dan, I think the question is, he wants to know how much of the land is tillable or good farmland versus where this project number 1, for example, is going to be sited.
Sure. So for this project in particular, as I was mentioning in the presentation, the land is not very easy to get to. It's behind an access road that winds up a hill, which is very, has a couple sharp turns in it. It's been hayed over the years. This project, all the projects did go through an agriculture markets review so that there was a notice of intent done. And that has been completed. And the project is not really the best, the best land on this parcel to farm. The front of the parcel has been a potato farm for a number of years, and that's really the best soils in the land. We worked with the landowner to avoid those areas and use the portion of the parcel that was the least producing and was really the most inaccessible on the property.
Does that hold true for all these projects?
That's the same for the other 2 projects as well. That's correct. In fact, the other 2 projects, the land we're using is even less productive. And most of it is considered essentially kind of scrub land on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Jim, I understand that you need separate action on each of the 4 projects. Is that correct?
Yes, if you hang on to your seatbelts real fast, I'll zip right through this Pike number 1 LLC project. As you can see in the description under project description, it's going to be a 2 megawatt size project, and it's going to be on approximately 20 acres of land. The employment impacts of project number 1, in addition to project 2, 3, and 4, are large job creators. We've known that for all our renewable projects that the IDA board has approved, but there will be a maintenance job created, whether it's in-house with the Delaware River or if it's subcontracted, but it would be primarily just a maintenance position. Here's their application that was submitted. They are asking for the sales tax, mortgage recording tax, and real property tax. They've, as I said, they had filled these out completely. This property is in the Letchworth School District. There's going to be no buildings or no building structures on the property. It's strictly going to be a solar array. And so there won't be anything obtruse in terms of height and visibility other than the solar panels themselves, which will be, I assume, mounted on stanchions. There you can see the job impact numbers. This page, it breaks down the project costs for Pike 1. Non-manufacturing equipment is primarily the panels themselves. And then you have the cost for the engineering, soft costs and fees and permits. And then there's the note for other, and it includes the acquisition or control of the property, the labor, development, interconnection are some of those items that are in that. So the total capital investment for this project is in the neighborhood of $4,127,000. As you can see, they did certify the application, so we considered the project application complete. As we were required to do, we did have a public hearing. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to see the minutes. There was only one person from the public that was at the meeting. Robin and I were there, but Delaware, Dan was there. I'm sorry, Delaware, Dan. I didn't mean to call you that. Dan was there, and then we had Larry Becker, who's a former town councilman for the town of Pike, was there. And he was very supportive of the project, and he's been involved with the permitting and siting of this as well. So he was very engaged with the project. So there were no negative comments that came out of the public hearing. We've looked at the map already for Pike 1 and Pike 2. In terms of the cost benefit analysis, in terms of the incentives that are going to be provided for Pike 1, we are projecting that the investments are going to result in installation costs of, as I said, of $4 million, and the cost benefit analysis, or what the benefits will be, will turn into essentially $1,052,000 in property tax savings over the 20-year term of the pilot, a sales tax exemption for Pike 1 at $165,000, and a mortgage recording tax exemption on Pike 1 for $22,000. So those are the estimated incentives that are going to be available. And with that, I would present to the board, that's all the information we have for Pike 1.
Right. Would anybody else like, I think that to do this efficiently, we could move on to the other three, and unless anybody wants to discuss this or vote on them separately. If so, just let us know and we will do that. But I think it might be efficient to just go through the projects and then vote on them one by one. Does anybody have any problem with that procedure? If not, let's go ahead. Okay, well, let's talk about the other projects as well.
All right. Up on the screen is the basic information for Pike 2 LLC. This project is going to be a little bit larger. It's a 5 megawatt project. It's going to be on 31.67 acres of land. The capital costs are going to be in the neighborhood of $9.8 million. Again, it's going to have relatively the same employment impact. We have this, I want to run it through our matrix for criteria, and it certainly is an eligible project. Here is their application, again, asking for the 3 incentives that we have available for development. And this property is actually, the owner of record is McCormick Farms. So both Pike 1 and Pike 2 are on lands owned by McCormick Farms LLC. I failed to mention that the first time. And the total project cost, you can see here, $9.8 million. There's a breakdown of the estimated cost for the project. If I'm going too fast, somebody holler and I can slow things down here. The application, again, was certified by the company and was deemed to be complete. There's their certification page. Again, this was the public hearing that we had. We had 4 separate public hearings for each of these projects. They were sequential, much like we're reviewing today. And this basically the same comments were kind of generated. Again, the same parties were at each one. There wasn't much different that was shared, other than we kind of zeroed in on the location and had a discussion about where these projects would be.
Here we go.
Pike 2, you've seen the map for Pike 2, the proposed investment we've already chatted about, and the cost benefit analysis came out to provide the following types of incentives: the property tax exemption at $2.5 million estimated, sales tax exemption $397,000, mortgage recording tax exemption at $52,000. So estimated incentives for Pike 2 project are close to $3 million. And that's all the information I have for Pike 2. If there are any questions, we'll jump into Pike 3. Pike 3 is a 3.8 megawatt project. It's going to be located on 39.49 acres of land in the town of Pike. This project in particular is going to be located off of Telegraph Road, and the property is owned by Elbros. Here's their application, again, that was submitted and is complete. So Dan Elbro right here, you can see, is the record of owner of the property. Total project costs are estimated at $7.7 million on this project. There you can see the seeker. They are submitted for each one with a neg deck. There's the certification from the application. We did the notice for the public hearing. Here are the minutes from the public hearing. Again, there were not any differences in terms of what was commented about. These were sent out ahead of time, I think, for folks to review, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on them. Let me rotate this around for you, so you can see the location of Pike 3 and 4. I might just pause right here and ask Dan to step back in, and if you wanted to talk a little bit about the sites here for 3 and 4, which were deferred till now.
Okay. So as you can see on the tax parcel map here, New York Pike 3 and 4 are located just to the west of the village of Pike, which you can see is that kind of triangle on the right side of the page here. These projects will total approximately 5 megawatts together, and they are located about a little more than 1,000 feet away from Telegraph Road. So they will have really no to very limited view impacts at all from the road. We've worked with the landowner here as well to make sure that this is sited in an area on the parcel where you can continue to farm the rest of the land as they have in the past. And I think this has been a hay field. This has mostly been hayed over the past few years. And again, these projects would take approximately about 3 to 4 months to construct together.
Thank you, Dan. Here's the proposed investment for Pike 3. It's going to be $7.7 million. Cost benefit analysis that we did shows the following estimated benefits for Pike 3. Property tax exemptions of almost nearly $2 million over the course of the 20-year period. The sales tax exemptions are estimated savings is $313,000, and a mortgage recording tax exemption savings of $41,000 for a total of $2.35 million for proposed incentives. So that's the information for Pike 3. Are there any questions about Pike 3? If not, we'll jump into Pike 4, and this is the final one. This is a 2 megawatt project. Again, it's going to be on Telegraph Road. Total cost of this is estimated to be $4.1 million. The employment impacts are the same. Here you can see the application. They're asking for the 3 incentives. Again, this property is also owned by Dan Albro on Telegraph Road. The employment information, here's their total breakdown of their investment for Pike 4. Here's their representation, followed by their certification of their application, the public hearing that we did for Pike 4, the notice anyways, followed by the minutes that I will not read. And like I said, Larry Becker was in attendance for all 4 public hearings, and I think he's on the line listening today. He wanted to tune in. So we've already looked at the location from the Pike 3 presentation, so I'll skip over that. Proposed investment is in the neighborhood of $4.1 million. Cost benefit analysis for Pike 4 will result in a little over $1 million in property tax savings over a 20-year period. Sales tax exemptions of $165,000 and a mortgage recording tax exemption of $22,000 for a total of $1.23 million of estimated incentives. So with that, I would present those as projects 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I would like to tell the board that there is a community host agreement in place, and in typical fashion of what the IDA board likes to see, it was an 80-20 split on the dollar value per megawatt. So these projects were valued at $5,000 per megawatt. So $4,000 per megawatt is going to the town of Pike, and $1,000 is going to be going into the pilot to be shared with all the taxing jurisdictions, and including the town. Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation on these.
You also noted on the agenda that the total is 12.8 megawatts and the total capital cost was 25.7 million. I think you put that in on the agenda, which we all have.
Right there.
All right. Well, I think we should vote on each of these separately. But does anybody have any further questions or discussion on any of those 4 projects? And if not, I'll just go through and get a vote on each one. All right. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the Pike 1 project as has been outlined?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anybody oppose? All right, it's granted or carried. Same for Pike 2. Do I have a motion to approve that as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there anyone who opposes? If not, the motion is carried. The same, for Pike 3. Does anybody move to have the Pike 3 project approved?
Move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anyone oppose? And finally, for Pike 4, do I have a motion to accept that project as outlined?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Does anyone oppose? All right. We have unanimous approval for all 4 projects. And I thank you very much for coming in and talking with us. And we're happy to have you part of the Wyoming County projects, I guess we'll call them. Okay.
Thanks very much, everyone. We really appreciate the time, and we look forward to becoming a part of Wyoming County and the town of Pike.
Hopefully we'll see you at the fair in August over in Pike.
Right around the corner.
Hopefully we have a fair. So, okay, our next action item is,
Thank you, Dave.
thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Our next action item is the memorandum of understanding, which we've had with the Wyoming County Business Center to renew the annual administrative fee. If you would.
I'm sorry.
The history of that, I think we all know it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The Wyoming County Business Center has separate programming, as we all know, for the micro loan program, for the fast track entrepreneurship program. We added 2 new programs this year. And it's also an organization that is lately been taking on some of these environmentally contaminated properties here in Wyoming County. We're going to talk about one of those today. So it does a lot, and it does not have any staff. And so the IDA administers the business center for a fee of $20,000 a year.
Any questions or discussion of continuing that practice? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding. Do I have such a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Does anyone oppose? If not, motion's carried. All right. Moving along to discussion items. Once again, I turn to you, Jim. You've been dealing with this directly on the Beaver Hollow Conference Center request for a new pilot. I think we've discussed it before at the last meeting, but maybe you could bring us up to date.
Yeah, it seems like I've had several discussions with Kathy Snyder from Beaver Hollow about this project. You know, they came in and were asking for a 10-year new pilot. The board, I don't think was interested in giving one out that long. There was some consensus, I think, maybe to extend a 5-year pilot to the project. And that really hasn't been defined on what that would look like. So I think where we are going at this point is at the last meeting, there was a hesitation on the part of the board, I think, to provide additional incentives to Beaver Hollow, even though they're under a huge amount of duress because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions and have not been able to open since March. But there was a hesitation to do a new incentive with a pilot tax payment that has not been made good. They did pay the town taxes for JAVA, but they have not paid the county tax bill, which is $43,000, and they have not paid the school tax bill, that's $71,000. So I guess what I'm looking for, Mr. Chairman, is I need something a little more firm that I could go back to Kathy Snyder with and say, you know, if you get these tax bills cleaned up, maybe we will do something. Or what they are proposing is they will promise to pay these pilot tax bills over a period of 3 years. You know, I don't know if that's something the board wants to consider, if they're going to move forward with a new pilot. I just looking for, like I said, a little more confirmation on how to deal with this situation. As I said, there are taxes in arrears, and the board was concerned about that and how that would look, providing new incentives for a project that has been kind of caught behind. So I guess I would leave it at that and see if there's any discussion.
Was there not a promise or an indication that they were going to make a substantial investment in the property as part of this proposed new pilot?
Yeah, they did actually send in an application where they were going to make a proposed capital investment of $1 million. 300,000 of that was going to be going towards PPE furnishings for the facility, and then $700,000 in some improvements to the facility. So we do have that application in hand.
But
You don't seem that excited, Jim.
You know, Beaver Hollow is an important business here, and I would be the first to tell you that. And when they're up and running, you know, they're generating a lot of sales tax and bed tax and tax revenue here. And so I think what I've been trying to talk to them about is that, you know, I think there's a willingness on the part of the board to do something here, but, you know, maybe the issue is they need to look a little bit harder at the assessed value of the property, which has jumped from about $3 million over $7 million. And they just seem to be looking, you know, for us to solve this whole thing with one wave of the wand. And I'm not sure it's that easy, or if the board really wants to do that.
But isn't there also a basic legal question about changing the pilot to what they are asking?
I don't know. I guess I would defer to Kevin. Kevin has been, you know, involved with some discussions with Beaver Hollow's attorney on this, and early on in some of the discussions about the pilot. So, Kevin, if you want to shed some light on that, if you would, please.
Well, I think there's a couple things at play here, but you know, I think that at a minimum, anything that the board wants to do in terms of a pilot should be tied to a project. You know, we don't, we have, as Jim mentioned, an application that's been in here. And the challenge has been over the several months that this has been under discussion is how to structure that pilot. And, you know, I think Jim rightly points out that, you know, at the last meeting, the issue of the non-payment of the current pilots had come up. And I do recall that the board had some questions about that and some reluctance as well. So I don't know where that takes you, other than the discussions are continuing amongst Jim and the folks at Beaver Hollow. And I think what Jim's looking for is just some guidance, whether that be the board saying we won't move forward with a project unless those bills are paid, or something else along that line. So I think that's a pretty good summary of the legal issue here, that we would want a project if we're going to give a new benefit. And it's clearly what they're looking for is a new benefit. Jim, do you recall when the pilot burns off again?
2 years.
2 years, right?
renovations that they're planning on, does that depend on what we do here? Or are they planning on renovations and this addition? Anyway,
Joe, excuse me, can you move over to that other chair where you're closer to that microphone? Thank you. Now lean in.
listen, I'm sorry, my question is, these renovations and whatever they're doing, is this going to proceed no matter what we do here?
I think so. I think it's just like some standard maintenance and upkeep and things of that nature. They're not building on anything or any, making the footprint any bigger.
When you spoke like they were going to do some interior work, but I took it they were going to do quite a few $100,000 worth of expansion also. The way you spoke a couple minutes ago.
I'm not sure I caught that, Joe.
I saw one more time. My question is, the way I hear it, their expansion and the renovations are going to go on no matter what we do here, if we give them these exemptions or not.
Well, as I indicated, I don't think that they're planning on doing any expansions. The $1 million that they submitted on part of their capital for their application, I think a lot of that is that they have not identified what that is for us. And that's a problem. And we've been asking for that and they can't identify that. Because usually we ask, what are you going to do with the 700,000? And can you define the cost of what that is? And they have not been able to do that.
There you go. I think we'd like to know what you want to do in this near future.
I didn't catch that. I didn't hear what you said, Joe.
I'd like to know, this is me talking, what their intentions are. They're talking about renovating or something of that sort, but they're not giving the ID board or Jim any direction what they're really going to do. Is this a dream for them, or are they really going to do it, or what? Apparently, Jim, you can't hear me, correct?
Yeah, I think we got you that time, Joe.
Well, does that help you to, is that anything new, Jim, that you can go back to talk to them about, or?
Well, I guess the
this
main
thing kind of dead in the water?
The main sticking point is, since it was brought up by the board at a previous meeting about these taxes being in arrears, that there wasn't really an interest to move forward. I need to get clarification on that point. So if these taxes are not paid in a timely fashion, the board will not consider a project. I guess that's what I need to hear.
That's a good move, Jim.
I concur with Jim Hardy. If we all know about business, and if a company or a business can't pay their taxes, and then they're somewhat mysterious about where the $700,000 investment's going to be going, it could be looking in a dark hole. So, Jim, I think they need to, come up with a plan on paying the taxes. I'm open to doing whatever we need to do to provide an incentive or whatever they need financially. But, sitting on the board of supervisors for the last, 25 years, people aren't happy. I'm not going to have a good feeling when a company like this isn't paying the taxes, and then we're gonna provide more incentive. I can't do that. So that has to, and I'm sure Becky Ryan, if she were here, would concur with that as well. So I think that the message going back to them from us, if you want my opinion, pay the taxes, and then we'll consider whatever they have at that point.
Jim Hardy here. I concur with Doug and Becky. I mean, there has to be a time when you draw a line. But to be honest, Paul's not getting any older, any younger, I should say.
Yeah, I think Jim and I have discussed this at length, and I think everybody seems to have the same thought. Let's tell them they have to pay their taxes before we're going to go any further with this.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. How about MK?
Yeah, this is a quick report on MK. As you know, the Wyoming County Business Center is working on the MK site. We have a developer that's very interested in partnering with us and has provided the business center with a letter of intent to work with us on making an application and redeveloping of the site. The grant that we're looking to get is an EPA grant for the Brownfield program. And in order for us to apply for that program, we need to have control of the site. So I went to the Wyoming County Business Center board at the last meeting and asked if they would provide the business center authorization to secure ownership of the MK site. That authorization was provided. And so I now need to work with the county and see if they're willing to turn that property over to the business center for $1. And if so, then we're going to partner up with this development company that is going to write the application in partnership with us and get that submitted. And that will pay for a substantial amount of some of the cleanup of the site. So that's what we're looking at. And I just thought I'd share that with the IDA board since it's been discussed in several other meetings.
I think I'm willing to provide support for that, Jim.
Good. We need a 20% match.
Wow.
But the business center board, we have a little bit of a slush fund from when we sold the A&A metal site over in Perry, a property that we remediated and sold. So we have about $50,000 of funds left with that we're probably going to convince the board they need to put into this project as well. So maybe we should see if the village is interested in kicking a little in. So they too have an investment in this property. I should tell you the developing company asked what the village would like to see there. The village has indicated they'd like to see as one of the uses a possibility of a market rate senior housing similar to a Calamar project down here in Warsaw. The company kind of likes that idea well enough where they have actually employed a consultant to do a market study for the senior housing to see how many units, what would work. So they're very interested in doing stuff, and they're spending money of their own already.
That's a good sign, Jim.
Yeah.
We're certainly miles ahead of where we were last year at this time. And I think, Jim, you deserve a lot of credit for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's been a nightmare in Arcade for years. So any movement is certainly appreciated. Have you had any conversation with anybody from the village about this at all?
Any conversation with who, Doug?
With the village, any of the village board?
Still didn't catch that. You guys must have a bad microphone there.
See.
Oh, the village board?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been talking with Larry Kilburn. I have not updated them on this recent decision by the business center board to allow us to move into a position of ownership. But
okay.
I did. They do know we have a developer interested in things of that nature. I plan on, once I get my due diligence done and work with the county attorney on control of the property, I do plan on attending the village board meeting.
Very good. I don't think there'll be a problem convincing the board of supervisors to turn the property over for $1 either.
Okay, good.
Okay, very good. And our last discussion item is the sublease for the space, and I think we spent a lot of time on that last year. as I understand it, we're basically just going to renew for another year on the same terms and conditions. Is that correct, Jim?
The only question I have for the board is Bill Daly space we were paying for. I didn't know if we wanted to remove that office that he was in. I just bring it up because it was out there. And it's also my understanding there might be a slight increase in the lease rate as well, but I haven't seen anything formally on that.
Is the county going to reestablish the planning function? Because that's one of the offices up there. I think that
the plan pre-COVID was to actually hire a modified planner after Bill's retirement, and that still is the plan. But given the the state of the pandemic, why it's kind of been put on hold. But I believe that's what'll be happening. And, you're right, Jim. The state said should be picked up by the county if it is that office indeed is going to be used by a county planner. So that needs to be talked about. Perhaps I would suggest including it on your agenda for the next planning committee meeting with Supervisor Lohr and make him aware.
Will do. Thank you.
You bet.
all right, let's await the outcome of that discussion.
Our lease.
It's really, I mean, considering the history here, we don't have to rush into this, right?
Yeah, our lease, I think it expires like February 17th, as I recall.
Well, we seem to have been fairly flexible about those dates over my memory's correct.
Okay.
All right. And I guess we're ready for your report.
Yeah, just quickly some updates on some projects that I'm working on. Advanced Rubber down in Wyoming had a very good year despite the pandemic. They are back up to 3 shifts now. They manufacture safety respirators and electrical components for the utility industry. They're going to be putting on a small building expansion. I'm not sure the project's going to be large enough to net them any true savings from the IDA, but it's nice to see that they've really progressed during this time. Had a real estate broker from Albany contacted me looking for locations on the Main Street corridor area of Warsaw for a national retail business. They didn't define what that was, but they needed some site that would work for a drive-through. So that remains to be seen, but I did help them identify some potential sites. The Greater Rochester Enterprise sent a business lead to us. They have a company from Israel that is looking to start some discussions with some local dairy farmers about their interest in building a facility here possibly here in New York or Wyoming County, where they grow feed indoors. It's kind of a vertical growing operation. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I do have a flyer on what the company is proposing to do, but I'm not sure how they're going to get the volume that you would need to feed a couple thousand cows here in Wyoming County. So we'll see where that goes. I reached out to Joan Petson. I thought maybe Joan could dig us up some dairy farms that might be interested in just having a discussion with this company and see if it goes anyplace. Mark Hortz are looking at plans to build a warehouse at the rail transloading facility in Gainesville. They may just use it for their own purposes initially, but eventually I think they would like to use it as a warehouse and distribution facility for other rail users. And one of the challenges we have there at the site is there's not any power directly there. And so I have scheduled a meeting with Mark Hortz and the mayor of Village of Silver Springs to see if it's at all feasible to extend municipal power down there from Silver Springs. So we'll see what happens with that. Several projects are on hold because of the pandemic that we've talked about. The Holiday Inn project in Arcade, TTI Light Industrial in Perry. They wanted to build a new building up at the racetrack. Then a small company over in Attica called Integrity Tool Machine. They wanted to finance and do some new machinery there. So those are all still kind of in holding pattern. The solar projects that are in the pipeline, I think there's about 3 more that are coming our direction. I've had the most recent discussion with one called Sun East Highview Solar. It's going to be in the town of Cast Isle, and it's on property owned by Walt Farina. So they're starting to make a little more noise on that one. Then there's another one called Silver Lake Solar, also in the town of Cast Isle. And then a very large one in the Bennington, Sheldon area that's going to be 175 megawatts. That one has been pretty quiet as well lately. Just some quick updates on the business center stuff now that we've talked about that. The Restart Loan Program, we just did another $10,000 loan for Silver Lake Brewing Project in Perry. Primarily the $10,000 is going to be used to offset the payroll cost and get them through a little bit further. We're anticipating doing a loan closing for Max's Bakery, which will be setting up baking and retail operation on Main Street in Perry. So that'll be coming real soon. We have a new program under the Business Center called the Business Accelerator Program. The first class is scheduled to start on March 3rd for that. We still have a couple spots open. That program is really for businesses that have recently opened, but they're in need of additional technical assistance. So we're hoping to get a couple more bodies in that. Our fast track program is scheduled to open up also on March 2nd. We still have some slots for that. And then we created a new program called Business Mentorship Program. And it's a program for businesses that are looking for one-on-one business mentoring from a professional business counselor. And they get 8 hours of free counseling service. We currently have a young gal in the program from the Arcade area that would like to do a bakery. So with that, I would leave that as my economic development report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any other business or discussion that anyone has?
Yeah, but just a question. Do you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Just a question. Jim, in our last meeting, we talked about that potential medical center in Attica.
Yes.
Okay.
I did follow back up with the developer, and they are currently discussing options and plans. So they're
What was that, Jim? I didn't get what you're talking about.
the medical facility in Attica, where the
Okay.
developer over on Market Street wanted to build for the hospital.
Vice Chairman Verlander brought it up last time, and the board agreed. If they did a study, is there a real need for that center in Attica? That's all.
Okay.
Number 2 is, if you remember, last meeting, Bill Bailey brought up legislation in Albany about IDAs and potentially not letting elected officials anymore participate in IDAs. Recall that?
Yes.
That was discussed. Is there anything new regarding those issues? You know.
You know, our organization, the state organization of Economic Development Council has made a position on all those legislative things against the IDA and are working on our behalf to try to get some of those not be considered. But I think we may see some of these things, if they're going to happen, they're going to happen with the state budget process.
Dave, or Bill got a summary as of November of all the bills that have been introduced, as well as the NISAC position on them. And I have the document before me. It's about 15 pages, and it goes through each one and is prepared by Harris Beach in Rochester and Hodgin Russ in Buffalo. So I don't know if anybody else is interested in that, but it's probably a little dated now. Things are happening fast with the Democratic dominance in the state government. Jim?
I think he was just stretching for the extra innings here.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, I have that here. If anybody wants it, let Jim know and I'll get a copy to you. But as I say, this thing's, I think it looks like it's moving fast with the new assembly. And Senate. And it's all veto proof, they say, so it's not like the old days where the governor can sit on these things. And there's a magazine called The City and State, which just had quite an extensive discussion of what we might expect. I started reading, I haven't finished it all, but it looks like there's going to be some pretty dramatic changes if the governor is taken out of the equation. And I don't know what that means.
I was going to say, what does that mean?
Is that vague enough? Okay. Is there any other business? If not, our next meeting will be February 11th at 2:30. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay. Now,
Everyone
what
will,
is?
everyone will stay on, Mr. Chairman. I'll unplug the TV and plug it back in.